Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Soy Kunagari. Welcome to a new video. On today's video, we're going to be going over 10 survivor tips to make you a better survivor so you can stop dying 10 seconds into a match and stop killing your teammates 10 seconds into a match. Before we get into the video though, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell so you get notified when I post a brand new video. Without further ado, let's get into the tips. The first tip is greed pallets. Yes, pallets, the most cherished thing on Dead by Daylight. Maybe not to Meg mains, but you are not a Meg main, I hope. And if you are, the first tip is don't be. Grading pallets is necessary because if it is a good pallet, you want to get the most value out of it as possible. You have 3 stages of pallets: unsafe pallets, safe pallets, and god pallets. An example of an unsafe pallet is almost every pallet on RPD, especially the one in that one room with the desk and the pallet. I'm sure you know which one I'm referring to, but I'll show it on the screen for the Meg mains in the audience whose brain size is the size of Ghostface's terror radius when he's in stealth. Anywho, next is safe pallets. An example of safe pallets are the truck pallets on Autohaven, the high wall pallets on Coldwind, and many more that I am too lazy to think of. Hashtag best content creator ever. Basically, they are pallets that force the killer to either take a different route in order to break it. You want to greet these with your fucking life. These are your babies, your children. Protect them like you're in your 3rd trimester with this pallet as your baby. If you drop them at 5 gens, you smell like Victor's asshole. Next is god pallets. Examples of god pallets are shack pallets, that one pallet on Larry's, and 90% of pallets on Pallet City, aka the game, aka the most killer sided map. Totally not being sarcastic. These are pallets that you want to save for endgame or when there is 1 to 2 gens left. Yet, I personally say, if you're on Death Hook, yeet those motherfuckers and throw them down. Who cares? Certainly not Meg. The second tip is don't drop pallets if you get hit and or are gonna get hit. This has to do with the first tip. If you get hit when running through a pallet, why drop it? You get a speed boost after taking a hit, so why give up pallet if you're already hit and take away from your speed boost? The speed boost is normally enough to get to another loop, so create distance instead of taking a hit and dropping a pallet. Boom. Quick tip. Tip number 3 is, if you can't find a gen, look up. This is handy for outdoor maps. If you're looking for a generator, look up and you'll see the light tower on the generators. If they're blinking, they are not done. Go do them, Meg. If it's a steady light, it is already finished. Good job, Meg. You can also find gens on Larry's by looking at the signs in the hallway. If they're a flashing light, there is a gen in there. If it's a steady light, the gen is already finished. If the light is off completely, there is no gen in there. Tip number 4. Take a hit for an injured teammate. Don't always do this. You want to take hits for an injured teammate under only these circumstances. Early game, before the first gen even pops, when they're being tunneled most likely by a nemesis or a Wesker, when an injured teammate is opening a gate or leaving the trial. Yet never leave a gen to take a hit for someone, especially if you're using a brand new part. You're on a gen with someone else, with prove thyself, and or it is large gen. If you just started a gen and you're at 4 to 5 gens, leave it if they're close by. I'm talking to you, Meg. Tip number 5. Take a hook for a teammate on Death Hook. I see this all the time, especially while playing a solo queue or a duo queue. Teammates who end up dying first hook because they're either being camped or they're being tunneled at 5 gens. Thanks a lot, Nemesis and Wesker. If you are on first hook or not hooked at all and see no one is going for them, go for them and do a trade. I see people just crouching around near someone who is hooked, expecting the killer to magically change their mind that they don't want to camp anymore. If you're smart, one goes in for the unhook, the other teammate body blocks the survivor unhooking from the killer to avoid a grab. Boom. Problem solved. Don't be a help your teammates out. Tip number 6. Practice mechanics. No, not CJ techs, Locker CJs, and Aaron techs. But those are all for experienced peeps who just want to add style points. You're here because you're ass, just starting out, or you're a Giga Chad who wants to become even better than other survivors, mostly Megs. Good beginner mechanics to work on mastering are spins, corner techs, window fakes, pallet fakes, jump scare tech, and dumb techs. Just if you want to add something simple but fun. I can do a video covering all techs if you guys want me to. In fact, if you want to see that and you're still watching, comment the number 1 down below if you would like me to make a video covering all of the techs. Tip number 7. Don't do nothing. Hey Meg, this one is especially for you. I've seen so many survivors who spend the trial crouching in a corner, picking their nose, scratching their ashes, and texting their girlfriend / boyfriend who hasn't responded to them in 3 months. Give it up, Meg. They're not gonna text you back. They literally play the game like that. It's not fun for anyone. In fact, what is so fun about sitting in a corner? I get it if you're second to last survivor waiting for the person on hook to die to get a hatch, but at 5 gens, that's just boring. Run around, take a chase, go for a beamer, flashbang saves, do a gen, cleanse totems, hell, even go open chest if you want. Just do something. Also, stop getting off gens just because you hear the slightest tear radius. You're killing me, Meg. Tip number 8. Don't group up on gens. Controversial tip, but let me explain. Grouping up on gens is a killer's favorite thing to see. Let me put it into perspective. You have Meg, Dwight, Claudette, and Fang. Meg, Dwight, and Claude are on the gen. A killer goes over to that gen which forces everyone off of it. The killer, if he's smart, will proxy that gen if it has a lot of progress in fear of people going back to it because he knows 3 survivors are not on the generator, which puts the killer in a really good position. Smart survivors will take on individual gens. Why? So if one gets forced off, the other 3 are free to commit to their gens. Tip number 9. Play killer. I know most of you don't want to, but it's really smart to. You can learn a lot playing against 4 survivors. You can learn how to read double backs, fakes, etc, etc. As well as with playing killer, you get to put yourself in the shoes of the killers you play against. Like you can learn how to read Huntress and Deathslinger's window shots, Pyramid Head's power, how to play against Plague's power, and so on. It's to learn how a killer would react to certain things and learn the inner depths of survivors. You'll notice survivor mistakes and just make sure to ask yourself, what could I do in that position when I play survivor to avoid making that mistake? When you play killer and make a mistake, you should ask yourself, what should I expect a good killer to do to avoid that mistake? And so on. I started off as a killer main, former Legion main, I know. Loser. And switched over to survivor after about 500 hours or so. And it helped me a lot being able to expect what a killer is going to do, especially against a Legion. Tip number 10. Don't be toxic. Being toxic is a #1 way to make yourself get tunneled, slugged, or camped. So no more teabagging, clicking, gesturing, etc. to a killer. It would make them severely depressed if they aren't already. And let's be honest, there isn't such thing as a happy killer main. Just ask Odds Darva.
Me too.
You will only feel their depression, which will result in you becoming a punching bag for their father leaving them 5 years ago to go get a pack of Newport Menthols and a gallon of milk only to miss your graduation, birthday parties, holidays, etc. I am 100% not talking about myself. Anyways, being toxic and mocking the killer is all fun and games so you get slapped with no one and blood warning. At that point, deserved. Bonus tip. Early game is very important. Early game is the most important thing when it comes to a trial. More important than a relationship between you and your parents. In early game, you should expect the first hook to happen when first gen pops. But if there is 2 to 3 hooks before the first gen pops, you're already looking like you're going to lose this game. Don't waste time here. Spread up, everyone find 1 gen and commit unless the killer is on you. Don't get off at the slightest terror radius, especially with Mr. Whiskers, who has a terror radius the size of Mount Rushmore. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys would like to see, I will be posting a video covering all the text in the future. If you guys want to see that, make sure you comment 1 down below. If you guys would like to see that, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notified when I post a brand new video. Love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao for now.